Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. This is Gianni DePoce, and I'm joined this week by Ray Merriman. Ray, welcome.
Johnny, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me on again.
Indeed, I'm glad he's with me here in Michigan. I'm always glad to spend some time with Ray when I get the chance. So we had another interesting week in markets. We had the conjunction between Mars, Uranus, and the North Node on August 1st. That led to some whipsaws across several key markets. We also had Mercury ingress into the sign of Virgo on August 4th. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at some charts and see what happened this past week. And then I also want to take some time along with Ray to discuss some of our calls that we made in the Forecast 2022 book, because now that we're past the halfway mark of the year, it's good to reflect on what we've been talking about. So let's start off with the Dow Jones. Made a high on August 1st. That was the high. So right on the conjunction of the Mars, Uranus, North Node signature. And but overall, held the gains, consolidating near the highs, pretty constructive overall. Still have a lot of heavy geocosmic signatures to get through into the remainder of the month, but thus far pretty constructive. If we take a look at gold next, we had a payroll report that came out on Friday. July saw the creation of 528,000 jobs. So the market took that as a pretty hawkish sign in terms of the Fed. And I think there's a greater expectation now that the Fed's going to be more aggressive with their interest rates, even though chances are that inflation is coming down a bit, especially when we look at some commodity prices. But gold did not like the job report after a pretty strong start to the week, pulled back and lost some of those gains on Friday. If we look at Bitcoin here, still consolidating. Would encourage you to check out the MMA crypto reports, the daily and the weekly. We will be including an ETF analysis of Bitcoin in the coming MMA ETF report that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. So definitely stay tuned for that. But Bitcoin consolidating its gains up a little bit here on Friday, but overall has been correcting. Crude oil fell to a new cycle low, caught a little bit of a bid on Friday. We have a Venus trine Neptune signature approaching on the 7th of August, the same day that Mars is set to square Saturn. So need to be open to a potential reversal in crude oil, in addition to some potential inflammation of geopolitical tensions as well. Next week, we also have an opposition with Venus and Pluto on the 9th. And then we have Venus ingressing into the sign of Leo on the 11th, the same day that the sun will square Uranus. And then we are coming up on the opposition between Sun and Saturn as well. So I'm going to save some space for Ray to discuss that too. But I do want to look at corn real quick as well. Corn was consolidating, it pretty much trading near the lows. Grains taking it on the chin after a pretty good start to the week. But I do want to bring some attention to the livestock market. We've talked about this as well in recent videos. Started to break out after that conjunction between Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in Taurus. And as you know, Taurus rules livestock. So this is an important market to watch in the next couple of weeks here. And last and certainly not least, T-notes, well, actually interest rates, the 10-year interest rate surged higher on Friday after the jobs number, showing that the market is expecting the Fed to be a little bit more hawkish. And perhaps, the inflation story is not over quite yet. And you have to keep in mind that now that Jupiter is retrograde, a re-ingress into the sign of Pisces could see a reignition of the energy trade. So Ray, any comments before we talk about the forecast? Any comments on any of the signatures approaching, anything on your mind, or any of the markets that we just reviewed?
I think this is one of the most intense times of the year. In fact, the month of August through the month of September, probably the two most back-to-back important months of this year. You pointed out the triple conjunction, the Mars, Uranus, North Node on Monday. The Dow made a new high. Our geocosmic critical reversal date was August 4th, and probably 3/4 of the financial markets or the stock markets of the world topped out on that day.
Yeah.
It's also interesting, gold and silver topped out on that day after their nice rally since July 14th and 21st. So it's a very remarkable period we're in right now, and next week it's not going to slow up.
No.
Next week we got more of these, as you already pointed out here, with it, especially with the sun moving into a T-square to Saturn and Uranus. That's going to be very big at the end of the week, I think.
Yeah, Okay, well, that's Ray's Geocosmic Preview. I encourage you to sign up for his weekly, free weekly column. Check it out at mma8cycles.com. So, Ray, let's talk about the forecast and start off with the Dow Jones. I have the Dow on the screen here. And what did you want to review with the Forecast 22 analysis?
Is this the day? This is a daily chart. Okay,
Yes,
so notice how the all-time high was January 5th.
Yep.
So one of the things we talked about in the forecast book, which was written in November, late October through mid-November. You wrote articles about it. I wrote articles about it. We had everything in by November 15th to the printer, and we pointed out that the economy and the stock market looked to be very, very close to their high. As we enter the early part of 2022, and I think the most interesting thing, the most fascinating thing was a study that I shared with in that book, where the average gain of a 4-year cycle has been 103.2%, and that would come out to something like 37,000 in the low 37,122. And where was the high? It was 102.8%. It was so close to the average of all 4-year highs in the time band that we're looking at, which is the early part of 2022. So that was pretty remarkable call that we had there.
Indeed.
In the gold market, okay, our call in the gold market, our forecast in the gold market was for the to see a high of 2075, give or take 47.50.
That's pretty close, right?
And the high was 2078.
Yeah,
not bad.
Not bad.
Okay,
I don't think
so we did okay there.
Yeah.
We also had
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. That was an interesting one because we wrote this before the high. Bitcoin was early. We wrote that in early November.
Yeah.
And there we had Bitcoin making a high very soon and then dropping 55 to 93%.
Yeah.
And it actually dropped 74.5%.
Right.
So that was a good hit. You called a good one in the crude oil. You caught a couple of good ones. The crude oil. You were looking for crude oil to get up to 105 to 115, and if it took that out, 140 to 145. Well, it got right in the middle there.
Yeah, right.
Got to 130, 50. That was an excellent call, Johnny, and that was on March 7th. And I think even more fascinating was a call that you made in the corn market. You said if corn can take out 680 to 700, then look for it to get to 820 plus or minus 20 as being the high likely for 2022. And there it is. The high is 824 on August 29th. Excellent call, Johnny.
Not a bad call. Thank you.
I think it's really fascinating that we hit so many of these things. We're forecasters, we're not crystal ball readers,
right?
But yet the forecasts we make, the ranges we make, the time bands we make are pretty consistent because they're based upon actual studies in history correlating geocosmic signatures to highs and lows in the financial markets. And we're going to do that again in 2023. You're going to write your sections. I'll write my sections. Ulrich will write his sections. And we'll cover a lot of the same markets. We'll cover all those markets. Plus, we're going to cover the economy and the different aspects of society that are social things that are happening too. For instance, COVID-19, we were looking at that April 12th, Jupiter, Neptune. And our statements at that point was that we would look for Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, both sides of the story, increased freedom to move about and tendencies to see carelessness where the contagion spreads. And we got both. And it was right around that time in April. They lifted the restrictions and the new variants of COVID have become very dominant in society. We talked about inflation in the economy. And I think inflation at the end of the year, or when we wrote this in October, November, was probably around 5 or 6%.
Yeah, that's my recollection.
And we're looking for 10%. We're getting close to it.
9.1 in June. So we'll see. Next week we have the inflation number. So we'll see how close we get.
And we said that would indicate that the world economy may continue to fall short of its economic projections for the year. And every projection they made, they've lowered their forecast. Every month it's been lowered. So we also had the weather we called pretty well. Regarding war, we said the world may witness yet another serious conflict in 2022, 2023. Well, we're certainly in one of those.
About that.
So there are many things like that. President Joe Biden, that was an interesting one too. What do we have here? The transit of Uranus in opposition to his natal Mars would indicate critical decisions he'd have to make this year regarding the military.
Yeah.
He had some very critical decisions. It was a little bit slow getting going, but he finally got on board, and he's still making critical decisions involving the military, and he probably will for a few more months.
Yeah.
So we'll cover all these subjects and more in the Forecast 2023, was just opened this week, August 2nd, the sales period, the discount period. If you're interested in Forecast 2023, what we think about that, and also getting the only discount of the year we offer on our subscription reports, this is the time to take advantage of it by going to our website, www.mmacycles.com. Get the discount while it's in effect on the book and the subscription reports.
Okay, very good, Ray. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. The last thing I want to leave our viewers with is to talk about our MMA seminar that's going to take place in Troy, Michigan between September 9th and September 11th. So highly recommend that you come out and attend. It's going to be actually the last lessons of MMTA, the Merriman Market Timing Academy. So we're going to be covering some methodology as well as giving some projections for several key markets that we cover in our report. So Ray, any additional comments you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, that's a very, very important event for us. And it's not going to be available you don't have to be there live to have it. We're also going to have it virtual. You can take it online. We'll have the Zoom with that. We have fantastic technology at the Michigan Educational Center, Michigan State Educational Center. It's going to be a very exciting event. 3 days. It's your best chance to get to know Gianni and I, not just through our writings, but, in between the classes, during the meals. It'll be quite an intense and enjoyable weekend. I hope many of you can make that.
Indeed, and don't hesitate to sign up if you wish to attend in person, because spaces are limited. I think we're only accepting 20 people, 20 attendees outside of students of the Merriman Market Timing Academy. So that's all we had for this week. Ray, anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up here?
No, I think we've done an excellent job. Just be prepared for this month of August. We've already saw some volatility start this week. We've made new highs this week in several markets. Be prepared for the roller coaster we think is coming up in the next 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, indeed. All right, everyone. Well, thank you as always for tuning in. Check us out, www.mmacycles.com. We will catch you next week, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.